So if you watched my video this past Saturday about that ribeye roast I got, you may have noticed that at the end I talked about how it was the toughest cut of ribeye I've ever had. So I'm going to show you probably how that happened and why that happened by talking about grades of steak. The steaks I'm going to show you today are from Walmart. I'm not a huge fan of Walmart. I am not endorsing shopping at Walmart, but I will never, ever criticize people who shop there instead of buying whole sides of beef like I've done. I will never hold anybody shopping, within their means to, improve and optimize their health accountable for making those decisions. I will flat out tell you, if you have the ability to buy from a local farmer, or at least from a local grocery store, do that. Though you're getting the same beef most of the time, whether you're shopping at the grocery store chain that has 5 locations in your metro area, or if you're shopping at Walmart, it's usually the same beef, or functionally the same beef. Now, the information about these steaks is going to be coming from the USDA website because they are the ones who do the grading of these things. You've seen those little shields on the packages of steak, typically USDA Select, Prime, all that kind of thing. And I'm using the USDA website so there's no confusion, as well as one industry website, because the USDA doesn't really provide enough information for my liking. I want to give you all the information you can have in a 12-minute video. That's my goal here. For clarity's sake, we really won't talk much about grass-fed beef today. I will show you a grass-fed New York strip steak to compare the other steaks I'll show you, just so you can see what it looks like and what the price difference is and all the macros and everything, so you can see what it is you're paying for with a Walmart grass-fed, grass-finished beef. They don't sell grass-fed, well, it's grass-fed grain-finished rather, my bad. They don't sell grass-fed, grass-finished. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen that at Walmart, though. I'd love to know if there's a Walmart like in San Francisco or something that's selling, the really high-end beef. But it is true. People say, well, cows are fed grass, so they're all grass-fed. That's true in that they're all fed grass. But the label grass-fed and the label grass-fed, grass-finished have explicit meanings in the food industry. And I will make a video talking about the differences in those for another time, because I don't want to get sidetracked here. But if you want to hear this kind of stuff in the carnivore community, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it if you can. It does help. But let's start with the lowest grade of beef by USDA standards. This is canner, cutter, or utility grade. These are the lowest 3 grades. You will see this in the grocery store, but not typically in the meat section. This is the grade of beef used in processed foods. Think your frozen food aisle, like that frozen spaghetti they sell there, or those weird Salisbury steak mystery patty things. That's probably the grade they're using for. You also see it in canned beef, like this product right here above my shoulder, that is, that survival canned stuff. That's probably what they're using in that, as well as the worst quality fast food. And I will not badmouth a fast food company here because I don't want to get sued, but I will tell you most of the fast food places are not, they'll tell you, yes, we use real beef. They're not telling you what grade of beef they're using. So this comes from the website animalcare.com. Quote, "These grades," this is the utility grades, "of beef are obtained from an older animal and they have no fat marbling. These meats are used for canned products and for meat products that require processing. They are not widely available in the markets, but even if you find these grades of meat, you might not want to buy them as they lack tenderness." End quote. So, was that ribeye roast I bought a canner or utility cut? Unlikely. You'll find this grade in things like canned chili, or for you carnivores who are prepping for natural disasters or worse, given the sort of geopolitical situation. And things like that, this product here, again, over my shoulder, so we'll show it a second time. That's a number 10 can of ground beef. You can get it on Amazon. They have a shelf life of like 30 years. I've heard of people who've opened them and eaten them. They say they taste fine. That's the kind of product you're looking at for that kind of preparation. But that's a grade of beef you're probably getting when you buy those things. It's definitely edible, but made more edible in the canning process due to the heat and pressure typically applied in canning. The next grade from the bottom is U.S. standard or commercial beef. And again, from Animal Care, we get this, quote, "Both grades have less fat marbling and hence they lack tenderness. They're being sold as ungraded beef or are mostly labeled under the name of the store. They are inexpensive and they require moist heating cooking methods. Mostly they are perfect for recipes that require slow cooking, as these both will get dry if fried or grilled." End quote. And these are 2 separate standards, but the nutrition information is not really out there for them. So I'm just going to lump them in together. And I have found that these grades of beef are fine to smoke as well if you get them cut in large enough portions to smoke. Smoked meatings are cooked with indirect heat, as opposed to a barbecue grill over live coals, which are direct heat unless you manipulate your grill to cook with indirect heat. And there are plenty of barbecue channels that'll show you how to do that with a charcoal grill. So, like, let's say those Safeway special deals that look too good to be true, that's probably what these are unless they are marked as select or better. The next one you're probably familiar with from the grocery store is this USDA Select, which most people think is the lowest grade of beef. It's not by a long shot. It's the lowest grade you'll often see at some grocery stores, but it's not the lowest. The USDA's website says the following of this grade, quote, "Beef is very uniform in quality and normally leaner than the higher grades. It is fairly tender, but because it has less marbling, it may lack some of the juiciness and flavor of the higher grades. It has at least a slight amount of marbling." End quote. At Walmart, these cuts are typically in the white styrofoam containers with the cellophane wrapping. They are the cheaper cuts, but in my experience, they are perfectly fine. I'll have some comparisons both visually of these cuts and their average nutrition information here in a couple minutes on the screen so you can see what these look like side by side. The next grade is USDA Choice, which the USDA defines as, quote, "Choice beef is high quality but has less marbling than Prime. It has at least a small amount of marbling," end quote. Now, Animal Care actually adds up more important information than the government site because, of course, they do. Quote, 65% of the total graded cattle make up U.S. choice beef. This beef is easily available in restaurants and markets for the consumers. It has a moderate level of fat marbling as compared to U.S. prime beef. 50% of total graded beef is choice. Choice beef can be cooked in both moist and dry methods of heat, such as roasting, grilling, frying, or even baking. It's an economical alternative to prime beef. End quote. USDA Choice is delicious and probably what most carnivores and ketovores are buying when they go shopping. At Walmart, it's the stuff in the black styrofoam packaging with cellophane wrapping. The other grade you're familiar with is USDA Prime. This is high-end restaurant beef. Think that fancy restaurant where you may never have had a cheat day on carnivore, but you would, without hesitation, have a cheat day if you found yourself being able to dine at one of these, restaurants where it's $300 a person. That's the beef they're serving there. And at Walmart, when they have it, it is in the blue styrofoam packaging with the cellophane from the USDA, quote, "Prime beef is produced from young, well-fed beef cattle. It has the slightly abundant marbling, the amount of fat interspersed with lean meat, and is generally sold in upscale restaurants," end quote. Again, they're being pretty brief in their explanation. From Animal Care, we get some more information. Quote, "This is the first and highest grade in all beef grades. It has greater fat marbling, and this grade's beef is almost tender. This beef is obtained from young cattle who are very well fed. This grade's beef is found in abundance in high-end and posh steakhouses, hotels, or restaurants. Around 4 to 5% of the total graded cattle are the prime cattle. The prime beef is popular for its richness of fat marbling, and this is why it is highly suitable for dry heat methods of cooking, such as frying, roasting, broiling, grilling, and baking." End quote. Costco, until very recently, was carrying USDA Prime briskets at pretty much every store, and they're still carrying them at a fair number of them, but they're getting harder to find. When you compare Prime and Choice steaks, the differences are noticeable. But my experience with brisket of the Prime quality is that it's often just, to me, not that different than a properly prepared Choice brisket. And I'll show you a video on how to take a USDA Select brisket and make it suitably fatty. It's really not that hard to do. It's just with a Select brisket, you got to be a little more attentive to what you're cooking because they are leaner. Now, the USDA sites don't include things like Wagyu or Kobe beef, or if they do, I haven't found them yet. Or even grass-fed and grass-finished cattle. I'm sure somewhere on there they'll tell you what the different grades are, at least not in the Prime rankings. They don't rank those kind of cuts in the way that we're talking about here. They don't, there's no Wagyu Select. They have their own grading method. And I'll go all of those in a future video. You'll get that from me in the future, as those are definitely specialty animals that honestly you don't need to eat exclusively on carnivore. There's a big push to get people to eat grass-fed, grass-finished. You don't need to do that, not really. I mean, if you can afford to do it, great, there are benefits. But just going carnivore by itself, even pork-based carnivore, will vastly improve your life than where you were at before, probably. Now, I was curious, and I wanted to look up the cost of buying a half of a Wagyu cow online, and I found it. There's a company that'll sell you half a Wagyu. It'll cost you $4,000, but it's half a Wagyu. which is actually a better deal than it sounds. If you've ever been to Costco and seen the A5 Wagyu, that's like $99 a pound for the strip steaks, you'll know why $4 is actually a pretty good deal. But that's if you want to eat nothing but American Wagyu for whatever reason. Now back to that ribeye roast. What grade was it? It was probably USDA standard or commercial grade. The store I bought it from was a local grocery chain, and they marked it as a value cut. And in the past, they've labeled USDA Select as value cut. So that's why I was confused, because I've had their USDA Select ribeyes and they were fine. I'd had better, but they were still good. But that ribeye roast was definitely lower quality than that. If you're watching this in the Oklahoma City area and want to buy one of those after seeing my video on saving money on ribeyes, let me know what your reaction was when you cut that thing up and had some of the ribeye. Was it as tough as my experience? And I'm asking because I know a few of you do live in the greater Oklahoma City metro area. You've let me know in the comments before that you recognize the half cow I bought. You recognize the ranch that I bought it from, or you asked about specific grocery stores in Oklahoma City metro area. So let me know what your experience was with this, if you bought one. Now let's compare steaks. From Walmart, I got the same cut of steak in all 3 grades, plus I picked up a grass-fed one to also compare it. So here is the Humble. I'm about to show you the Humble New York Strip, often forgotten by carnivores in favor of the often similarly priced ribeye steak. And they're also have similar macros too. The reason people prefer a ribeye is, one, it's a ribeye. It's going to just almost always be more naturally tender than the other cuts. But also New York strips tend to be smaller. So if you're going to eat a New York strip and you're trying to keep it to 1 meal or 2 a day, you're probably eating 2 New York strips at a time, or you're having that and some pork or a big pile of eggs or something with it. But the strip steak is a favorite on fine dining menus for a reason. It has a nice amount of intramuscular fat, again, similar to a ribeye. So I'm going to just go right into this. So let's take a look and compare the different grades of steaks that I've discussed and let you really see what they look like side by side with the mystery ribeye that I started this with. And so we start with this ribeye steak that I showed at the beginning. Not a lot of intramuscular fat, yes, and beautiful fat cap and fat on the edge, but not a lot of intramuscular fat. Little discoloration because of how I wrapped it and froze it. No big deal on that, though. I'm going to end up cooking it here in a moment. Not that I'll be showing you the cooking process, but this I'm showing you for comparison, because a ribeye and a New York strip often have a very similar fat amount. And so here we have the Select strip, or New York strip steak, at $11.97 a pound. Came in a 2-pack of these steaks. So take a look. You'll notice actually not a bad amount of intramuscular fat. $11.97, $20 basically, $19 basically for 2 of those, because that's what that is. It's the 2-pack of those steaks. It's not bad. Here we are, USDA Choice. Notice the packaging sizes are going down. 2 steaks, $12.97 a pound. That's 1.38 pounds. But notice also more intramuscular fat. Noticeably more once you get to Choice steaks. This is the steak you're probably buying the most of, to be honest with you, at the store. Most of the time you'll see these. But here we have the USDA New York Strip Prime quality. This is your fine dining restaurant at $15.97 a pound, and it's only 0.82 pounds. And for comparison's sake only, we have the grass-fed New York Strip steak, 0.63 pounds at $10. And here they are all side by side. And as you go down that cutting board, you see more and more intramuscular fat until you get to that grass-fed steak, which is not that surprising because grass-fed steaks are typically a little leaner. Excuse the mess in my kitchen. But there you go. There's the Prime. There's that strip, the Choice steak. And there's the Select steak, which I would be happy eating just fine. Let's finish this with some basic nutrition information about each quality of steak. I included calories for those of you who care about that, but calories are a measurement of heat. And a calorie value on any food item is using a heat measurement gotten in a lab for when they manage to get total combustion on the food item. My stomach is not a furnace, so I don't really care that much about calories. I care about macros because, recently I'd been in a 3-month weight loss stall, and I decided as an experiment to just track my macros again the way I had been when I was on keto. And lo and behold, the week that I was strict about it, even reasonably strict, not like, oh no, I have to get my 205 grams of protein a day, and oh no, I have to get 110 or less grams of fat. As long as I was really close to those numbers consistently all week long, I came in on the scale 4 pounds less, and it was all body fat. I can tell by looking at it. And I went to the gym and had the same workout intensity and with the same results as I had last week. So it wasn't muscle loss. Just saying. So generally, most of us don't care about, the combustion value of food when it was ignited in a lab setting. So let's take a look here. Let's start with the, side by side. So you got on that top row, yes, this was made in a spreadsheet. You've got Select, Choice, Prime, and grass-fed. USDA Select steak has 17 grams of fat, 7 grams of saturated fat, 23 grams of protein. That's a typo. The Choice steak has 18 grams of fat, saturated fat is 7 grams, the protein is 23. The Prime steak is where you start to see the big difference. 25 grams of fat, 10 grams of saturated fat, only 21 grams of protein. But notice something here. The grass-fed beef is 15 grams of fat, 7 grams of saturated fat, 23 grams of protein. So when you take a look at this, pardon my typo again, on that Choice fat value, it's again 18 grams, not 118. You can see that the differences are there. And so why am I showing you that? Well, because here's the next part. Here's the price per pound. USDA Select, $11.97 a pound. Choice, $12.97 for 1 gram of fat difference. Prime, $15.97 a pound. And the grass-fed is also $15.97 a pound. Is that price difference worth it? If you're trying to save money on the carnivore diet, honestly, be aiming at the USDA Select unless you get a better deal. Like there's a sale going on, obviously hit up the sales. If you find marked down Prime steaks, I always grab those when I can because they're amazing. But if you're looking for day-to-day eating, that USDA Select at $11.97 a pound for 1 gram of fat difference, really literally 1 gram of fat difference between the Select and the Choice, it's a no-brainer to me. So I'm just curious what you thought of this in the comments, and let me know if you want to see more of these kind of things where I break down the cost difference between grades of meat and that kind of thing. I'm going to also probably be going into, if I can find the information, the fatty acid profile composition of Wagyu and grass-fed grain finished and that kind of thing in the future. So let me know what you thought of all this in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. And as always, try and go out and optimize your day today.